Good afternoon to everybody and a warm welcome whether you are here live or you're watching us on the replay. Thank you just so much for taking your time and joining us today. So my name's Kelly O'Dore and I'm the Marketing Director for Bookster. For those of you who are new to Bookster, I will give you a whistle-stop introduction. So Bookster is a property management software company. We're based in Scotland and we offer software, websites and channel management. So our head office is in Edinburgh, although some of us work from home as well. And we look after clients across the globe. And we have tools, techniques, partnerships that are really very specifically designed to help holiday rental owners and holiday rental managers only. So we don't look after hotels or any other aspect. And we're helping our clients to overcome and manage these really time-consuming tasks of running a holiday rental business. So I'll start with Bookster. Let's talk about today's session. So today is part of a series that we're running that is following an increase in conversations that I have seen in forums from property owners and property managers who are saying that they're not seeing the same level of occupancy or the same number of bookings, perhaps, compared to previous years. And as we've been doing these sessions over the last couple of months, really, I've been continuing to monitor what the conversations are like in the forums. And I can see, some property owners very happy, lots of property owners not very happy. So there's definitely some kind of fluctuations for some people's bookings and they're not getting what they're expecting. So in this series, what we've been trying to do is try to manage your reductions in any bookings by applying techniques, firstly, to attract direct bookings. And we did that with Jen Boyles, which was so much fun. We've looked at working with different marketing channels. So we've spoken to Shivali from Verbo. And last month, we were looking at attracting eco-conscious guests through specifically electric vehicle charging. And this month, we're following on with this. We're looking at attracting eco-conscious guests, but we're looking in a different way this time. Instead of EV charging specifically, we're looking more into communication and collaboration with your guests.
So my name's Bob Garner, and I run with my partner Casal di Fichi, which are holiday apartments in central Italy. We've been doing that for 20 years, and I'm going to be talking about that experience today. I'm also the founder and the CEO of EnviroRental, and this is a one-stop free shop for everything you could possibly want to know around sustainability and short-term rentals. And I built that because I perceived there was a need for people to start to understand what they could do and the steps they could take on their sustainability journey. And I'm going to be talking about that towards the end of my presentation. But I'm really looking forward to talking to you. And please, put your really difficult questions in the chat. I'm looking forward to being challenged and tested during this next 45 minutes.
Excellent. I love that you would say that. For the idea of someone coming up with challenging questions for me makes me sweat and very nervous, but they can challenge you. That's fine. Now I'm running Bob's slides for him today. So you'll hear Bob asking me to move on. So I will start with that now.
Okay, great. Okay, so thank you once again. And first of all, just a refresh then. We've been here in Italy for 20 years running eco-friendly apartments. And I want to just give you a moment to understand where we started and where we've got to and how we've developed our business. So next slide. So we moved here to Le Marche in Italy 20 years ago. You can see the building we bought, an old farmhouse that had been abandoned for 35 years on the left, and on the right, obviously, how it looks now, more or less. So we bought this property, moved from London, and decided to make it as eco-friendly as possible. 20 years ago, I knew zero, absolute zero about sustainability. But we did know, me and my husband, that we wanted this to be a sustainable business and we wanted to start taking some steps. So everything that I talk about when I'm on a webinar or whether I'm in a conference, or when I'm talking to an individual, comes from those 20 years of experiences that I've had around sustainability and what works for the business, what works for the guest, and what works for the planet. So I've made loads of mistakes, and I've done some things right, and I want to share some of the good things for you so that you can start on your journey. So here are just a few stats about our business to give you some idea of what we've achieved. And of course, that's partly around the guest experience. That obviously has to be there always. But I think a lot of our success has come from the sustainability element that we've built into the business, that we've then created a sustainable place to stay. And we've involved our guests at every stage of that process. And some of the stats therefore speak for themselves. So we have a 90% book direct rate, which we're really proud of. And obviously that's fantastic because the more direct bookings you get, the less commission you're paying. And the best guest is the guest that books direct and also comes back. And we have a 65% repeat rate. Obviously, we love that. The guests come back. They're already familiar with us. We're familiar with them. It's much easier to have those people come back and you don't have to spend money on marketing and finding new people. Of course, you always want new people to refresh your business, but you also love having the people come back again, and again. And we have people, no exaggeration, who come back 10 or 12 times and they book each year and we really love it and they become almost like friends. Obviously, we're on site, which I know for a lot of you, that won't be the case. So we have that advantage to build that rapport with the guest. And I'll talk about that in a moment. We also have a very high level of referral rate. So people go back, they tend to tell their friends and tell their family and tell their neighbours, and they come and book and stay with us. And again, who doesn't like that? You've got a low cost or a zero cost booking that's come from a recommendation. We've got over 600 5-star reviews on TripAdvisor. And that's really important because it's great to get the feedback that you're doing the right thing, that you're taking the right steps, because, you know, who knows? I didn't know that I'd be any good at hosting and being an owner and a host here in Italy. It seems I can do it well and I can implement it and make the guest have a lovely stay. And that's obviously got to be something really important. So, and to summarize there, I think customer loyalty and low marketing fees are what we're looking for. We're looking for people to go home satisfied because they've had a great service and you've built sustainability into that service. And they're loyal and they come back and they refer, and it also keeps your costs down. And that's a big important step because people often think about sustainability, that it's a choice between quality and service and eco-friendly. Absolutely, that is not the case. It's about building that eco-friendly initiatives into your business and working through to make sure that that shines through your business to your customers and they can appreciate it. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So next slide. So I wanted to just show, I'm not going to read these out, you can look for them for yourself, but I wanted you to see that when I say that we've got guests who love being coming to us and being environmental as we are, you can see it comes through in a lot of our reviews, and that's really important to us. Everyone loves a 5-star review, but it's also great to get that feedback. We do get it in person because we're on site, but we get it through our reviews as well, and that shines through so other people can see that. And that's what you want. We want to be talking about it, and I'm going to be talking about this a little bit later. We don't want to be shy about the fact that we're trying to be eco-friendly and we're trying to do the right thing. And I say try in the sense of nobody is expecting perfection. I am certainly not perfect. I'm still learning. So it's absolutely fine to take some steps and try, but it's wonderful to get that feedback and that feedback loop where you take some initiatives, the guests appreciate it, they give you good feedback, and then they come back again or they refer you on to somebody else. And that's that wonderful loop which gives you that warm feeling that I'm doing the right thing, people are appreciating what I'm doing, and they as somebody says in one of this, it's like I'm coming home. They're coming back to where they feel comfortable. And that's, I think, really important because when you're starting out, obviously people don't necessarily know, although it's great if they can know that you're doing sustainable initiatives, that you're taking some steps. But if they don't know, but then they go home now knowing, they can learn something and build it into their day-to-day lives. And I really love it when somebody goes back and then they said, oh, I've just started Who Gives a Crap toilet paper because I saw it first at Casal di Fiche. And then you think, I've just made that tiny difference to somebody's life and made a simple, small step. So getting that feedback is really important, and letting people feel that when they come to you, especially when they come back again, they often say, oh, it feels like I'm coming home. I feel comfortable here. I know what to expect. I know that you'll have good eco standards. I'm trying to do that myself at home. And so they feel that they're a soulmate, that you're on the same level in terms of how you approach the world and what you think about the priorities. So that is a great thing that I really like to facilitate and encourage with our guests. So I hope you will too. But next slide. And Kelly does know she can interrupt me at any time with any difficult questions that she has. But I wanted to talk about the business advantages of being sustainable. When I built EnviroRental, which I will come on to, which is this hub with all the resources around sustainability, I thought it was really important to showcase right up front, and you'll find it on our homepage and you'll find a blog about it and you'll see us talking about it all the time, the business advantages. I may be passionate about the environment, Kelly is passionate about the environment, you may be passionate about the environment, but if you're not, that doesn't matter. Do it because it will make good business sense. And I want to talk about these business advantages. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how we get to sustainability. If we get there by you building your business, by being more successful, by implementing some of the things that we're going to be talking about, fantastic. The planet benefits at the end, but we don't need to start by thinking, what have I got to do to save the planet? Think of it in terms of what can I do to build my business? So let me talk briefly about these 10 points. First one is differentiating yourself. And that is really just making you different from your competitor, and letting the consumer see that there is a difference. So what I mean there, if they're looking at two properties, they're the same price, the same quality, the same outlook, the same view, the same beach or the same pool or the same mountain. And the only difference that the potential guests can see is that you're taking some eco initiatives. And that's the only difference. Well, who isn't going to choose you over the competitor? I can't imagine anybody saying, oh, I'm not going to choose them because they're trying to do the right thing for the planet. So think of it in that way, and think of it as how you can make yourself different from your competitor. And one of those ways is through being sustainable and obviously talking about it, which I'm going to come on to. Improving profitability. Obviously, there are some things that you can do that will cut your costs, and I've talked a little bit about that already. Thinking about your marketing costs if you're getting direct bookings and referrals. But there's also an aspect of actually saving money on some initiatives that you can take. People often think about investing in eco will cost you money. It actually can save you money. And I don't have time to go into all of that now, but you'll find those initiatives and those ideas on our website, EnviroRental.earth. And we give you lots of suggestions about how you can cut your costs and increase your profitability. Staff retention and attraction. And by the way, these are not necessarily in order of importance, they're just as they are on the screen. We're starting to see, particularly through the younger generations, they're much more interested in the environment. They're much more interested in organisations that are doing the right thing for society. And so we're seeing surveys which are saying that some of the younger generations are more switched on to this topic, and they're actually wanting to work for a company that's doing good. That might be doing good for the environment, might be good for the local community. That inspires people, and it's a way of attracting and retaining staff. So if you have staff, they're likely, if particularly the younger ones, to be switched on and turned on by the fact that you want to do the right thing. So that's a great advantage. Prominence, this is around if you're using the OTAs, then obviously, for instance, like booking.com. And I know we all like direct bookings, but sometimes the OTAs have a role to play. If you're using someone like booking.com, they have an eco badge. If you meet that criteria, we might get into that, then you can get that badge, and that will differentiate you from the other people on booking.com in your area because you have the badge and they don't. There's a whole story to tell around that eco badge, but raising your prominence and getting you higher up that search criteria is something that you might be interested in following up if you're using Booking. And by the way, Verbo are going to be bringing it out soon too. Publicity, this I've used a lot. So I find it's great when you're talking publicly about what you're doing. Then journalists will often approach you and say, I'd like to write a report on you and what you're doing in the community around your eco initiatives. And who doesn't like publicity? You know, we had a piece in The Guardian a few years ago, and we got 12 bookings that day off one piece in the newspaper. So fantastic. You know, all we had to do is, you know, talk to a journalist. So the journalists are still interested in this story, and if they know that you're doing this stuff, and I'll keep saying that because it's important, the branding, and I'm going to come on to that, then they can find you, or you can go out and find them and talk about what you're doing. More bookings is an obvious one. If you are branding yourself and people can find you, we know from the survey data from Expedia and from booking.com that 80% of travelers would like to stay in the sustainable accommodation if they can. They'd like their holiday to be sustainable. So if they can find you, and if you're doing the right thing, you have that opportunity to attract that cohort of travelers who would like to stay sustainably. Now, liking to and doing it are not always the same thing, but certainly there's a group of people out there who would like to stay sustainably. And if they're coming to your area and you're the one property who's doing some fantastic stuff, then you're going to get that booking. Building your brand, and this is really important. I'll be talking more about it later as well, is making sure that eco is part of your brand. You all have a brand, you all have a look, you all have a logo, you all have a way of approaching your guests, looking after your guests. You have high standards and you're trying to do the right thing. Building eco into that brand and making it a prominent element of your brand is a way to attract customers that I've just spoken about and retain customers, and people will come back. So building it into your brand and not just doing it, you need to be talking about it, is really important. And that is a great way of enhancing your business reputation.
I was just thinking there,
sorry.
I was just thinking there about your article that was about you in The Guardian, and thinking what an amazing long-term effect that would have as well, because not only are you seen on that particular day, but The Guardian is linking to your website. Firstly, you're going to continuously get people who will find you at some point in the future, and therefore you'll get more bookings that way. But also, even by having a link from a newspaper to your own website will make your website more prominent as well in kind of Google and the ranking. So it's a huge win to be published like that in a newspaper. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, going on from that, what actually happens is people still book. And we say, well, how did you find us? And say, I kept this clipping from The Guardian. I've had it in my book for 5 years or something like that. You know, people, it's amazing that people still do that, you know, in this digital age. There are still people, they keep a cutting, and then when they're thinking of going to the area, they find it. So, you know, we had all those bookings on the day, but we've had many more since off the back of that one article. So it's been brilliant. Yeah, consumer demand. I've really spoken about this. This is the booking survey data, and it's really to say that there are people out there who want to stay sustainably, and therefore, if you can differentiate yourself, you can tap into that market. Future proofing, this is around changes in legislation and regulation, which will be coming down the line depending on where you are in the world. And you need to be keeping ahead of that regulation and that legislation, which will start to impinge on us all over time, about what we have to do from an eco perspective to continue to operate. As we know, governments have got these targets to get to net zero by 2050. We are way off track in most of the world on that. But as governments and local councils start to turn up the gears on that, then they will be imposing certain restrictions, and the people who are doing nothing will be the people who will be impacted most. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about was the guest experience. Obviously, we hear about the guest experience all the time. If you can have your guest go home having an amazing experience, having understood that you're doing some brilliant things around sustainability in your business and that you plan to do more, they are going to be so impressed with that. And that comes through in the reviews that I've already talked about. It comes through in the referrals, and people will appreciate that at different levels, and you will get more business as a result of that. So that guest experience, you need to be building what you're doing around sustainability into that, and not being shy to talk about it, as we'll keep coming back to. So those are the business advantages, and probably you can even think of some more, but those are I think the ones that occur to me as being really significant. Next slide. Okay, so I wanted to just talk a little bit about sustainability and when it works. These comments are probably fairly obvious, but they're something that I've sort of honed over time in thinking about what works in what we do here at Casal di Fichi. Obviously, you want to be delighting your guests. That's critical. And delighting your guests is obviously giving them a great service and value for money, but also letting them understand that you've taken some eco steps, as I keep saying, and that they've had that experience while they've been with you. In the products that you use, they have experienced eco, and that depends on what you might be doing. It might be the toilet paper, it might be the cleaning product, it might be the way the pool is cleaned, it might be the organic garden, it might be the solar panels, it might be the electric car charger, we can go on. But they've had that experience and it's enhanced their stay. It's great when people say they feel that they're coming home from home, and that's what you want. You want them to feel that their stay has been so brilliant that they would want to do it again. But also for some of them, particularly the people who are more eco switched on as a guest, they are doing some of this stuff at home, and when they come to you and you're doing it, then you're on the same wavelength. You've got those same values, and they appreciate that, and that's what that home from home feeling is like. One thing that's, I think, really important is to focus on the outcome and not the initiative. So what I mean by that is, we don't talk about very much that we've got a swimming pool that actually is cleaned through an ozone system, which is a piece of technology, rather than using chemicals. What we talk about is that they'll have a lovely, clean pool to swim in, and at the end of the day, they're interested in the result, not the way that you got there. So when you're branding and you're talking about what you're doing, always think about the outcome and not the initiatives. So to give you another example here, we have an organic garden, a vegetable garden, that people can go and help themselves every day to fresh vegetables, take them back to their apartment and cook, which they love. They really, really love it. And yes, we say it's organic, but most important thing is there are some really lovely fresh vegetables out there for you to take. So help yourself, or go to the orchard and help yourself to the fruit, help yourself to the eggs from the chickens, and enhance your day by making a lovely fresh meal with 0 miles of travel for that food. So think about what the impact will be on the guest. One of the things, and this comes back to your question, Kelly, the next point is when mistakes I've made, and that's, we're all on a journey, so never preach. I'm super passionate about sustainability, about the environment, the way I live my life, the way I run my business, and that's why I set up EnviroRental, because it really is so important to me. But I have been known in the past, in the early days, to become a little too preachy about that, and to be eulogizing about it, and almost not that way exactly, but pushing it down someone's throat. That does not work. Never preach, never assume that you're better than somebody else and that they haven't done it and why haven't they done it, and criticize them or imply that you're criticizing them. It doesn't work. I understand now to meet people where they are on their journey. We're all on a journey. None of us are better than anybody else. And if I can help somebody on their journey at the very beginning of their journey, whether they're a host or a guest or a property manager, then that's fantastic. So it's really important to find positive ways to talk about what you're doing, rather than to nag or to suggest that the guest should be doing something that they aren't. Another example of that would be putting too many signs up in the apartment or in the property. Don't do this, don't do that, turn off the lights, don't run the dishwasher until it's full, make sure the air conditioning's turned off, blah, blah, blah. Find another way of giving them that message that people don't want to hear all the time. Don't when they're on holiday. So find a way of saying the same thing in a positive way. Like, if you could help me to make our property more sustainable, I would really appreciate that. And here are some things that you can do, and find a way of using language that's more inclusive and isn't so preachy. So that's a piece of my feedback there. Which leads on neatly to seeking feedback and following up. Super important, I found over the years, is to understand from the guest what they've liked about the experience, which of the products or services, and there could be so many that have an eco aspect, have they appreciated and liked and used, which ones they haven't and why, if there are any. What their overall experience would be. And sometimes that can happen through a conversation, sometimes you'll get it through the review, but find a way of getting that feedback. For instance, if you have a digital guide, then that's a way of encouraging them to give feedback as well. And the final point here I wanted to mention was, because I'm conscious of time, is don't be a green husher. So a greenwashing, as many of you will be aware, is when you actually overemphasize the impact of the actions that you're taking. So you're exaggerating the impact of sustainability. We don't want that. Nobody wants greenwashing, but neither do we want green hushing. Hushing is when you actually are doing something, but you're not talking about it, possibly out of a fear of being accused of greenwashing. But it's really super important when you start to take action to communicate that. Communicate through your website, through a blog, through a newsletter to your guests, through your digital guide, through a page on your website showing your press activity that's mentioned eco. However you can get that message out, sing it from the rooftops, but do not be a green husher, because if you want people to find you, then you need to have built that eco element into your brand, and it to be absolutely clear on your listing on the OTA or wherever else you publicize that you are doing something around sustainability. Super important. Next slide. Okay, I wanted to, just two more slides. I wanted to give you 5 simple steps, because it's really important that you have something to go with tangibly that you can do. I'll speed up a little bit because I am conscious of time and I want to make sure there's lots of time for any questions. The green energy tariff, really simple. This can be any business, any home, anywhere. Make sure you're on a green energy tariff with your electricity. look on your bill, look on the website. You'll find that really easy. If you're not, talk to your provider and ask to be converted to a green energy tariff. In many parts of the world, that is easy to do, won't cost you any more money. There'll be no interruption of the service. Obviously, it's the same electricity coming down the wire, but your money, along with all the other people who are doing it, is going to support renewable energy. And that's what we need. We need to move away from fossil fuels. And when you've done it, put something on your website about it so people know. Simple step, won't cost you any money, and then you've taken some step. And your energy consumption is one of the biggest parts of your carbon footprint. So what's one of the biggest impacts that you can have, and one of the easiest and low cost. So it's really a win-win. Tech sensors, this is around having sensors in the home, particularly if you're remote from your properties, so that you can turn off the heating, turn off the air conditioning, make sure there's no leaks of water, whatever, make sure there's a movement sensor, so when nobody's there, it automatically cuts in and reduces the energy consumption. In different parts of the world, that might be more about heating or it might be about cooling, but it's a great way of reducing your energy consumption. If you've got the technology that turns off the heating, turns off the aircon, turns off the lights or whatever else is running, it's something really useful. Eco toilet paper, I mentioned Who Gives a Crap. I use that, super easy to do. You can order it online. That's just one company. There are many other companies. It's there, it's delivered, it's branded, it's funny, it's jokey, it works as toilet paper, very important. So use it, find a product that you like and use it. And I will say here, I use Who Gives a Crap because they give 50% of their profits to build water facilities in the developing world. So it's a great way, and Kelly and I were talking about this before the recording, it's a great way of working with companies who are themselves are doing good. You might feel very small. I just have 6 units here in Italy, but I can amplify my effect by working with great companies who themselves are doing good. So that's really important. And there sounds like there's a cat in the background there. Single-use plastic. Yeah, everybody knows about this. Start to think, if you haven't already, how you can remove some of that single-use plastic in your accommodation. Maybe start in the bathroom. Don't put those little bottles of shower and shampoo. Put a unit on the wall that has a pump that you can just refill. You will save money, the guests will appreciate it, and you've got rid of a piece of single-use plastic. There are lots of things you can do around plastic. I haven't got the time to talk into them now, but there is a piece on our website, a blog on our website about it. But I would encourage you to do an audit and think where you're using plastic in your home and whether you can remove it. And finally, on my tips, eco-friendly web hosting. So this is really about the servers that run your website. We hear a lot about flying and how bad it is for the environment, and it is bad. It counts for 4% of global greenhouse gases. But the internet in its totality also accounts for 4% of global greenhouse gases. But we're not talking about that. So think about how you can run your website using renewable energy. And there's a great website called the Green Web Foundation. You'll find the link at the bottom of our page of environmental.earth. Go to the Green Web Foundation, punch in your URL. It will instantly tell you whether your servers are run on green energy. If they are, fantastic, lovely smiley face. You get a free badge. Put it on your website. Easy to do. 10 seconds, you're done. If you get the face that says, no, sorry, you're not, then talk to your host provider and ask them why that you're not using renewable energy. So really quick and easy to do. Fingers crossed, with a bit of luck, you're already on the right platform, and then you can put the badge on your website. There are a lot more you can do around your website. Again, I don't have time to talk about it here, but we do have a blog on our page about eco-friendly web hosting and eco-friendly web design. And finally, I just want to repeat this message. It's super, super critical about branding your business, your website, your newsletter, your digital guide. Get the message out however you feel appropriate, using social media to talk about what you're doing. Even if it's 1 or 2 simple steps, be out there, be proud there and talk about it, because people need to know. And also consider getting an accreditation. There's accreditation schemes specifically for short-term rentals like Calia and Sustonica. You'll find the links on our website, but there are others as well. Once you get a badge because you've met a certain criteria, they will encourage you to take the next step and support you in that process, as will we. But it gives you the opportunity, if you've done some things and you qualify, to get that badge, get that seal of approval, and put it on your website, put it in your communication, put it in your email exchange, so people know what you're doing and why you're doing it and where you're trying to go. So that's really critical. And then just one last slide, please, Kelly. I wanted to just say about EnviroRental. We're EnviroRental.earth. We're the go-to hub for anything around sustainability and short-term rentals. We're a not-for-profit, and our role is really to signpost sustainability for you and get you on the road. All the resources on our website are free. They're all written specifically for property managers and hosts. And through some amazing collaboration with our sponsors, they support us to allow us to do this. So please think about looking on EnviroRental.earth. You just need to register, but there are no charges whatsoever. And then you have access to all the free resources, and you'll be able to see everything that we do, and we can guide you and help you on your journey. So I am conscious of time. I'm sorry I've had to run through that quite quickly. I hope it's been useful. Next slide should be any questions.
It is.
Thank you.
Great. I have written down so many notes whilst talking to you. And one of the big things really is about green hushing, because I'm so conscious that there's so many things that we have been doing, even from, having our website evaluated. I did that, but I didn't tell anybody I'd done it. I did it and I sat and I thought, brilliant, we're doing really well. But I told nobody. I didn't even tell the rest of the team. I just did it from myself. So yeah, I am really conscious. That's one of the big things that I've taken from today, and I have noted it down, along with a whole heap of external links that you were talking about there, other companies. So what I will do afterwards, when I put this recording together, I'll include all the links of all the companies that you've spoken about there, and I'll put them into the newsletter as well. Let's have a look then at the questions, and we'll work our way through. Paul Carter, Bob, how easy is it to get onto TripAdvisor for reviews? Does it depend on the PMS, which is a property management software company for those that don't know? Does it depend on the PMS that you use?
I do not know the answer to that question. I don't use a PMS, so I just registered directly with TripAdvisor. And in fact, I think it was actually holiday lettings back in those days. It was 20 years ago. So I assume it's easy to do, and I assume your PMS can organize that for you, or you can do it direct. And Paul's been great at doing lots of things, by the way, around sustainability. So a shout out to him. He's doing some amazing things. So I'd encourage people to connect with Paul on LinkedIn as well. He's a great guy.
That's really good. Actually, Paul's put a couple of links there. So there's a link through to The Guardian for something to read this afternoon, and I'll include that as well in the newsletter that I send out for all those people that can't see the comments over on the right-hand side. Let's have a look. Jan has asked, have you heard if Airbnb or Vrbo will be adding a search filter for sustainability? I'm not fond of Booking.com. Right.
A long conversation here. Try and give you the short version. Vrbo are going to be doing it. They're a little bit behind Booking, but I've shared many a platform at conferences with both of them, and they're both committed to doing it. They both have a carbon plan, and if you go to the data page of our website, EnviroRental.earth, you'll find all their plans, that what they're trying to do, what they want to do, all their survey data. It's all on our website. We've pulled it all together so you can find that and analyze what they're doing. Vrbo are a little bit behind, but they are definitely committed and will be introducing it. Airbnb is somewhat of another story. They do have a plan, but they have a very different approach to how they educate, I use that word carefully, their hosts. I've had some frank discussions with Airbnb, and I doubt that they will do something impactful in the near future. That's my polite answer. So Airbnb, no, I don't think so. And if anybody is using them and is and getting a lot from them, then I would encourage you to ask them what they're doing around sustainability that's actually going to make a difference for hosts like you.
There is one thing that they are doing from a sustainability perspective, and that's, we were talking about this in the last event, having the option to click if you have electric vehicle charging as one of your facilities or part of your property.
Yeah.
And that is a good way of actually being able to stand out on any of the channels really that have that filter. You'll be able to be seen by people who are eco-conscious. It doesn't cover all the other ways, but at least there is a step there with the electrical vehicles.
And actually, just on the EV chargers, I would say, you know, when we got an EV charger 8 or 9 years ago, because we drive an electric car, obviously, but it was great to see actually people booking with us because we had the charger. So they knew they were staying in our area and they had an electric car and they wanted to stay in a place where there was an electric charger on site. So you can actually get bookings because they can find you on the charging databases simply because you've got an EV charger. They're not expensive now. You can get one for a few £100s. So I'd really encourage you to think about that, particularly if there isn't a good network near you, because guests want to park up at the end of the day, plug in and not have to go down the road to get back to their accommodation. So really think about getting an EV charger. It's a real asset and it's not expensive.
That is good to know. Okay, so Jan has asked a subsequent question about that, saying the charger may not be expensive, but I'm concerned about the energy costs.
Yep. Well, obviously, with the new type of chargers now, what you can do, they can be Wi-Fi enabled, and you can set the system so that the guest is paying for their energy. So, and you can actually create that premium, so you can make money on it if you want to. We choose not to, but you can. So, if the guest has consumed £10 or $10 of energy, you can set the charger so it will charge them $12 or $15 or whatever you want. So it actually can be a way of recouping those costs from the installation of the charger. Or you can set it for free or whatever you want. So the technology is there now, so they will pay whatever you want them to pay. And in my experience, most guests are very happy to pay for the convenience of being able to charge on site while they're on their holiday.
Because there is, I suppose it's not just the setup costs, but there are going to be kind of ongoing costs of actually having that facility, because you will need to maintain it. Presumably, you might need to replace it at a later point. So actually having a small amount of revenue coming in that you can use to offset those costs, I think is really interesting. Yep. Sarah and Stephen have said, sorry, we missed the last webinar on EV charging. That's a shame. It was good, but I can send it to you. Do you have any installation recommendations? It's a minefield on the net. Do you charge the guests or suck it up?
Right. Okay. Yeah. In terms of recommendations of who you use, and I think you need to find local providers in your area, depending on where you are in the country. And we had a company on. I watched Kelly's webinar last month, and this was a company who found you the right connections in the UK. That's right. So obviously that system and service might apply in other countries as well, or other regions as well. So you need to do a little bit of a research. There are just so many companies out there, but using the technology that works so that you can charge the guests what you need to charge, I think is really important. There's no reason why you should be subsidizing giving them a free charge. They wouldn't expect it. They turned up in a petrol car for you to fill their tank with petrol. So why should they expect you to give free electricity? But it's getting so common now. It really is a no-brainer. That I remember years ago, you know, I'm so old to remember staying in places before there was Wi-Fi. You would never dream now of staying in a place that didn't have Wi-Fi. It's like, it doesn't have water, I'm not going to stay there. It doesn't have Wi-Fi, I'm not going to stay there. Soon, you know, it may be a year or two away, depending on where you are. It's going to be people are saying, I want there to be an EV charger on site. So if you haven't got a really good system around you that people can get to very, very easily, then there's a great advantage of having an EV charger on your site. And you may want to drive an EV car yourself. So that's another reason to get it.
It's a win-win. Okay, Sarah and Stephen, so I'll send you the replay, and you're in Kent, so actually the company that I spoke to last month might be able to help you out finding suppliers that will work for you. Amit, and I think this is going to be the last question because I'm conscious of time. Amit has asked, Bob, can you recommend any places or platforms for eco products and services for short-term rentals that you've mentioned in your presentation?
Thank you, Emmy. He's referring to our marketplace. So he's making me laugh there. Yeah, if you go to EnviroRental.earth, and at the top of the menu, you'll see Marketplace. And that's where we've started to create a list of companies with products and services that have a sustainability element to them. Because we're writing about this all the time through blogs and case studies, people are coming to us now and saying, well, who do I go with? Who are the good company that provide this service or this product? So we're starting to build those up and put them in the marketplace. And they're categorized by region and by product or service, so that's maybe a first point. If you're looking for a product or service, go there. We're only in the early days of that. We've still got quite a bit more work to do, but we've got quite a lot of companies in there, so it's a great start. Thank you, Amit.
Okay, so we're going to finish, but let's see if you have one piece of advice that you want people, if they're going to go away from today's session, they're going to do one thing, what would it be that you would ask them to do?
Super easy. Just take the first step. Just do it. Don't overthink it. Take one of those 5 steps, if you like, that I talked about before. Just find something and do it, and take the first step. I say this all the time. It was our experience over the last 20 years. Sustainability is a little bit like eating crisps. Or potato chips for the Americans, if anybody's listening. You can't just have one. They're a bit addictive. You've got to have another. You've got to have another. Sustainability for me is like that, because you do something, you see the benefit, you feel good, the planet's good, the guest is happy, you take the next step. It's a virtuous circle. So just take that first step and review, and brand your business as sustainable. Be honest and open about what you've done, even if it's one step, and talk about the things that you're going to do in the future. That's not greenwashing, and that's not green hushing, and that's what we want. So just take that first step.
That's perfect. Okay, thank you. I have a slide here, which is our contact details. What's the best way that people can contact you if they have any questions or want to talk about it any further?
Yeah. Catch me on email at bob@envirorental.earth. You've got the website there. You'll find EnviroRental on LinkedIn. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Bob Garner. Easy. I'm on there every day. Just connect with me, ask any questions, send us an email, and we'll try and help you. And of course, register on the website so you can start to explore all the resources.
Fantastic. Okay, and if you're looking to speak to the Bookster team, you're more than welcome to get in touch with us on email, on our website, on chat. You can call us. And we also have drop-in sessions every week. I think I'm in it tomorrow, so you'll get my friendly face again. Thank you so much to you, Bob. Thank you. I always love speaking to you. I've taken so many notes. But thank you to everybody else who's come along and given up part of their evening to listen to this. I hope you found it useful. I hope you've been inspired. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much. Bye.